have mentioned before on this channel that we are currently expecting our 5th baby. This baby will be born in the spring, and as such, I have just started the 3rd trimester, and with that is kind of come the realization that this isn't going to be so far away. One thing I can say about this pregnancy versus the others has been the fact that it has gone by so quickly. I feel like the 1st trimester, I was just kind of getting used to the idea that we were having another baby. And then the 2nd trimester, just been living life. And, you know, with 4 other kids, I stay busy. And so I don't have a lot of time that I'm just sitting around thinking about, oh, when this baby is born. As I am trying to get organized for having a baby in the house again. One of the areas that I have found is very, very crucial, very helpful for our family is in the area of food prep. This is something that I really didn't start taking seriously until I was pregnant with our 3rd. As our family has grown and there are more mouths to feed, I have realized how helpful it is for me to go ahead and put some food in the freezer so that at whatever point in the postpartum journey, the newborn phase, I can just pull from the freezer rather than having to make something from scratch. And so I wanted to kind of take you through the process that I go through as I am doing that. Because I try to make all of our bread products at home, and the sourdough process does take a little bit more time. It takes a little bit more mental organization, and that's something that I know I'm probably not going to have for the first month or 2 after baby is born. I have begun stockpiling. I have been working on baking bread. Whenever I make bread, sometimes I'll make a double batch, or many times when I make bread, the batch that I makes 2 loaves, and so I'll just stick 1 in the freezer and we'll eat 1, and then I just have to make bread again sooner. So I've been trying to slowly, little by little, add to my freezer stash of bread. I have done a couple of recipes. I've done some bagels that are in the freezer. I've got some English muffins that are in the freezer. I want to continue to add to those things. But just kind of as I have time, some days I'm really motivated to get food together for baby. And so that's the kind of things that I do because I have the time now. I go in spurts where I am really motivated to prepare for the food side of it versus when I want to work on the more, I guess you might call it the nesting things, you know, the organizing our house, getting baby stuff out and putting it in a new home so that it can be ready for when baby comes, organizing the older kids' things to make room for the new one, all those sorts of things. I go in phases as to which area I'm excited to work on, and I try to just make the most when those moods hit me. For the cooking, I just try to kind of always be proactive about it. If I'm already making something and it's something that would be helpful to have in the freezer, go ahead and either make a double batch or put part of it in the freezer so I can pull from that. And I want to point out that something that I realized with my last baby was the fact that some of that I didn't end up using until the baby was 3, 4, 5 months old. In the past, I have started baking again when the babies are 2 or 3, sometimes 4 weeks old. And so I don't always have to grab the stuff in the freezer right away. But anybody who has had a baby knows that at some point you're going to have a day that the baby wants to nurse all day. And so you don't have time to do anything else, or the baby's just extra fussy and needs to be held, or you have enough other things going on with the other children that it's just a hectic day. And so I don't mind just putting stuff in the freezer for those days. I know with my last one, that was the reality of it, is I would have days when he was even 5, 6 months old that he would want to nurse all day or was fussy and I couldn't put him down. And so then those were the days I went, oh, I still have food in the freezer. I can use that. I don't have to worry about supper tonight. And that just took that much of a load off of me, and it helped me be able to just be in the moment with my kids and what they needed and not be so stressed about the food. So I am prepping now with the intention that some of these dishes may sit in the freezer for a while, and that's okay. Aside from the breads, I am also putting in, obviously, full meals. When I started food prepping for our third, like I say, when I really started trying to do this and take it seriously, we tried making soups and things like that and freezing them already made. Having the ready-made soups in the freezer wasn't a real good option. We wanted to do something different the next time around. And so then with my fourth, I began putting soups in the freezer that were not cooked. So I would take a Ziploc bag, gallon-size Ziploc bag, and I would assemble all of the ingredients except for the liquid portions. And sometimes except for the meat, depending on the recipes. But I'll chop all the vegetables, put all the seasonings in it, depending on the meats. If it's like already calls for a cooked, I have a couple of recipes that call for cooked chicken, so I would go ahead and have the chicken in that bag as well. And then just write on the bag what it is, how much liquid needs to be added and what liquid, and then put that Ziploc bag in the freezer. And then when I need to cook it, I can pull it out, throw it in a pot or in the Instant Pot, depending on what recipe it is, and add the liquid to it. And it's still so much easier than having to stand there and cut up the vegetables and take that time, but we're still getting the taste of a fresh made soup. Soups are the main ones that I choose to meal prep, just because they're a little bit easier for us, and we eat a lot of soup. A lot of our meals are soup meals, and so it just kind of works for us. I'll insert some footage in here of me putting that in the bags and kind of what that looks like for a couple of the different recipes.
So as I said, we just have found that preparing the recipes this way, as opposed to me actually cooking it all the way and then freezing it, is just a better option. So I am starting out today with lentil soup. I have shown this recipe on my channel before when I was in my video that I showed my Instant Pot recipes. And so I will try to relink it. I'll try to link that video or something where you can have that recipe. But anyway, I just went ahead and put the lentils and the rice in the bag. I'm chopping up the vegetables, putting them in there, and just assembling all of that at this point. And then it really turns out pretty nice. For me, I find that cutting up the vegetables is the most time-consuming part of making a soup, or it's the thing that I procrastinate on the most. And so if I can have this part done, getting the broth out and putting it in the pot, that's the easy part. So that's what I'm getting my seasonings here. So literally everything is there. You're going to see in just a minute that I will, write on the bag what's in it. And this is, again, a double batch, so that when I get it, pull it out and use it, it will be enough for us to eat 2 times. So that way, again, I'm only having to cook once. Just mark it with the name of the soup, and sometimes I'll go ahead and put the amount of liquid that is needed, or sometimes I'll just write the name of the soup, and then I'll just dig the recipe out when the time comes to know what to put in it. But just put that in the freezer. And then this is another one that that we like really well. It is white bean and chicken chili. This one is really filling, but it is like most chilies. It's something that you like to cook for a long time. So it's a bit of an all-day process when you make it. And so this is a good one for me to have ready to go, and then it can just simmer during the day whenever I need it after baby is born. And again, just getting all those vegetables prepped. And in this case, so those 2 containers that are sitting there have chicken from when I cooked chicken in the past, a whole chicken, and didn't need the whole chicken to go in whatever recipe I was making. And so I just I boned out the leftover meat and put it in those containers and froze it just like that, so it's already cooked. And then just to pull out for whatever I might need it for. And between those 2 containers, it was each of those was a little bit less than a half a chicken. And when I make this pot this pot of soup doubled, I like to use a whole chicken. So putting both of those containers together will be enough for this soup. I have put this in the freezer before with just chopped up raw chicken and not had the cooked chicken. So you can do it either way because it's going to simmer for long enough on the stove that whether the chicken is cooked or not at this point, you can do it either way, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a little bit flexible. But because I already had this meat, that's just one less step that I'm going to have to do later. So like I say, I'm just going to put those in there. And I was actually amazed that it fit in the bag, but it did. And then the beans are really the only thing that I have left out because, again, I like to use dried beans rather than canned beans. So on the day that I decide to make this, I will or the day before, I'll soak some beans, and then the day of, cook them in the Instant Pot and then add them to this. And I know I've talked about before, sometimes my recipes, what I think of as easy, the rest of the world might think, man, that's a lot of work. But because of the way we eat and the amount that I cook, this is still a whole lot easier than what it would be if I wasn't doing this. So while it is still it will be work for me when I pull it out of the freezer, it's drastically less than otherwise. So anyway, but I will I will link this video or type up this recipe, have it in the description so you can have this one as well. Like I say, it's really, really good. We love it. Our favorite is to add cheddar cheese on top with some chips and even some lime juice, and it's really good. I wanted to add in here real quick that food prepping for baby like this is something that is very individualized, and it really depends on your family, the way you eat, the way you cook, to do what is the most helpful for you. So this has been something that I just have had to discover what is best for me and go from there.
So now the next thing that I wanted to show you is our freezer and how I try to organize that and store it in there, and just kind of so you can see what I have in there and what that looks like.
So in this first freezer, I have most of my bread and bread items that I've already made just because they fit better in here. So this is some hamburger buns. There's 2 loaves of bread. There is more done in here. I'm not going to completely dig down into my freezer. That is a recipe of English muffins. And then this freezer I use for things that are not meat. So the other freezer is predominantly meat. This freezer has things like, I've talked about the fact that I store chicken broth, that I freeze that from when I cook chickens. This was some that I was in a recipe and was seasoned up really good, extra, and so I saved that that I can use as a soup base. I have, this is actually another thing I need to prep. This is fruit juice to be turned into jam or jelly, and I need to work that up soon because we're actually starting to run low on jam in the house. But this was some that was given to us by a friend who picked a bunch of fruit and prepared it, and then she said she was never going to consume all that jam, so she just shared it with us. But anyway, that's what this freezer is. Like I say, again, I'm not going to dig down in here, but there are more loaves of bread. I don't have an exact count of how many I have yet. At this point, we eat enough bread that I can safely say I'm not going to make too much bread. This freezer is, like I say, this is our meat freezer. Most of what is in here is raw meat. So we have beef and some venison here, and then underneath here is more beef. We purchased a steer to have processed, a grass-fed steer to have processed a couple of years ago, and so at the time we had to purchase this freezer to have room to store it. And so that's what this is in the bottom of it. And then I have put this box in here in an effort to be more organized this time, to put my meals in for baby so that I will be able to know where to look and not have to dig for this stuff. The bread is a little bit easier because that freezer is smaller, but in here it's going to get lost if I don't organize it. I realized after I videoed this that the audio that I was recording at this moment really wasn't very helpful. And so I just decided to redo it this way. I'm still learning this whole videoing thing and learning how to talk to the camera and say what's important. So anyway, just showing you all what is in here. I've got these couple of bags of soups. These are the ones that y'all saw me put together just a few minutes ago. And then also in here, I have a recipe of bagels. There's a bag of English muffins. I actually have put another bag of English muffins in there since I did this filming. And that's what the stash looks like for now. I went ahead afterwards and dug everything out of the freezer so that I could see it all in one place. And so now you can see I have those hamburger buns, the English muffins, the bread, and the box of regular food. And like I say, I have added another recipe of English muffins. I have added a chicken pot pie recipe to this since then, and I will continue to do so. So thank y'all very much for watching. I hope y'all found this helpful and interesting and excited to make some more baby content soon. Bye, everybody.